No one anticipated it. Not then, not in that manner. When Sierra entered the scene with that expression, calm but burning, everyone froze, adding to the already tense atmosphere on set. What began as a typical day of filming swiftly devolved into one of the most awkward and heated clashes in hip-hop and love that have occurred in a long time. And right in the middle of it, Yandi and Mendeecees, the man she has consistently stood up for. Sierra had receipts, according to production-related sources, not merely generalizations or idle chit-chat, specifics she had been holding on to. And everyone's mouths dropped as she confronted Yandi in front of the entire cast, accusing the Mendeecees of hiding far more than anyone knew and distorting the truth. Even Rosita appeared shaken. However, Sierra's statement wasn't the only one. It was the way that Yandi responded. The cool-headed, media-savvy queen lost her cool. Her voice broke. She asked if this was what they wanted while glancing directly at the cameras. You could hear a pin drop when she said, "You have no idea what he's put me through," according to viewers watching behind-the-scenes video. Suddenly, the entire room changed. As soon as Sierra entered the lounge area where the cast had assembled, there was a palpable quiet. No call for production. No cue from the camera. Wearing all black, her lashes were sharp, her hair was pinned back, and she entered on her own terms, as if she had come to gather energy. Everyone took notice. Spice remained silent and sipped her water, even though she normally has a sarcastic remark ready. Sitting at the far end, Yandi was using her phone to browse. At first, she didn't glance up. She didn't have to, though. There was enough noise from the shift in the room. Slowly, she raised her gaze and fixed it directly on Sierra. Not even a phony smile was exchanged. Sierra stated in a calm voice, "I'm not here to play cute today. Additionally, I'm not here to act false for the cameras." Some of the team looked about. The producers leaned closer. Immediately, the energy altered. With her fingers no longer scrolling, Yandi remained silent. "You called me messy while you were watching interviews. Not reliable." Claimed that I was clout chasing, Sierra went on. "However, if I dropped the items I've been clutching onto, the entire room would tremble." Bambi raised her head from her phone. Rosita moved around in her chair. Kirk attempted to giggle nervously, but even he sensed what was about to happen. "Do you recall the meeting where Mendeecees declared he would never speak to that girl again?" Sierra's gaze remained fixed on Yandi as she spoke loudly. "Do you recall the entire time you stood up for him and informed us of our goals?" Yandi sat slowly forward. "Sierra, just speak out if you have something to say." "All right," Sierra said. "Well, let's say it." After taking her phone from her bag, she gave the screen a couple taps. The room tilted inward. Not a single voice was heard. Not even background sounds. Sierra then played the recording at a higher volume. It was difficult to make out at first, but as the seconds went by, the voices became recognizable to all. Mendeecees was one of them, one is a woman's. And the information? It was sentimental, uncooked, definitely more than a friendly chat. "So, why did you inform Yandi that I had been blocked?" "On the recording," the woman inquired. Mendeecees answered, his voice softer and quieter. "Since she gets absorbed in her thoughts. And I wanted to avoid any more turmoil." Someone let out a gasp. Bambi gave Yandi a direct look, but his expression remained fixed. Not a single blink. Sierra halted the video. She stated, "That was dated 2 weeks prior to the most recent reunion. Therefore, either he was deceiving her, or both of them were deceiving us." Yandi laughed a little, but it was too short to reach her eyes. "You brought that all the way here? What precisely does a 2-minute voice note prove? It demonstrates that he is not being truthful. Because it demonstrates that you were aware, yet you continued to act as though I was the issue," Sierra retorted. "I haven't spoken for months. However, I'm sick of defending those who don't defend me." There was a lengthy silence, Spice said to Kendra in a whisper. Even Queen Key, who typically manages to steal the show, remained silent. At last, Yandi got to his feet. She didn't speak louder, didn't use profanity. She simply gazed at Sierra with a mixture of anguish and sympathy. She remarked, "You believe you're exposing him. However, you just put me in a situation from which I am unable to recover." Sierra's eyes narrowed. "What role is that?" Yandi said, The one where I have to be honest about what I've been dealing with. There was no performance. She spoke too steadily, too authentic, and all of a sudden, it didn't feel like another conflict between the cast. A few seconds later, Mendeecees came into the room. There was nothing more suspicious about the timing. He looked around and felt the weight of it all at once. "What's happening?" He tried to seem informal as he inquired. No one responded to him. Then, without turning to face him, Yandi remarked, "She played it." He didn't even inquire as to what. He simply mumbled something under his breath and rubbed the back of his neck. "You stated that it was finished." She responded, "You swore," without turning to face him. "It is," he answered. Sierra wasn't finished, though. "You informed her that the girl had been blocked. You informed the entire cast that we were causing trouble. However, this man was still in contact, and now Wendy is standing up for him while being made fun of behind her back." Sierra caught Mendeecees' attention. "You must exercise caution," he murmured softly. Sierra carefully turned her head. "Or what? Will you lie once more, or will you begin filming me as well, just like you did with Yandi?" That statement really got to me. Everybody turned to face him. "What is she discussing?" Queen Key inquired. "Are you currently filming people?" Mendeecees did not speak, and that quiet was deafening. At last, Yandi broke. "He claimed it was for his safety," she muttered. "He assured me that he would have evidence that he hadn't said anything crazy if things ever went wrong, so he could protect himself if I ever switched." Sierra gave a disgusted shake of her head. "So we're the bad guys, but he's filming you while you're crying." Mendeecees' hands went up a little. Bambi interrupted, saying, "I don't know what this is, but if this is some setup, no one's setting you up. You put yourself in a bad position. Did you not anticipate that girl sending those tapes to someone? You didn't believe your wife would eventually find out?" Rosita leaned in front. "You all. This is excessive." Unsure whether to intervene, the producers stood by the doorway, furiously whispering. However, no one ceased filming. None of the cameras failed. Mendeecees approached Yandi, but she retreated. "Don't," she advised. "Not at this time." The entire cast looked on. Kirk took Rosita's hand in his. Bambi stood as if she were ready to go. Spice seems truly taken aback. "This ain't even all of it," Sierra continued, still holding her phone. "I received more. However, I felt that everyone should hear the appetizer first. Everyone was aware that there was still much to be done. Everything would be decided in the next few seconds, and nobody was prepared for what would come next." Mendeecees tried to regulate his breathing while pacing the room with a chilly gaze. Once more, there was a sudden silence throughout the set, as if everyone were preparing for a fight. He gave the cameras a quick look. He was aware that every moment was being recorded. However, even the video was no longer enough to shield him from the stares he was receiving. Sierra relaxed in her chair as if her work were finished. She addressed the Mendeecees directly and remarked, "I ain't even come here to embarrass you. I came here to ensure that people stop acting as though I'm the one causing trouble. You created a mess for yourself." Yandi has yet to take a seat. Her gaze was constantly shifting between Sierra and her husband. Although she appeared to be making an effort to maintain her composure, something inside of her was breaking down. At last, she replied, "I didn't ask to be filmed crying. Love isn't that. That isn't defense. Fear is that. And if I'm telling the truth, I've been living in fear for some time." Spice crossed her arms and got to her feet. "You never let anyone see that girl, not even a moment." "That is the point," remarked Yandi. "I've been working really hard to maintain the image, but at what price? For this man to claim that I'm the one tripping behind my back? That I fabricate things?" Mendeecees broke off. "Do you know why I began to record? Because I became terrified when you threatened to go public and bury me if I ever cheated again. I didn't want my words to be misunderstood." Sierra gave a sour laugh. "Consequently, you reversed course and began playing defense before the offensive even appeared. That is the behavior of liars." Mendeecees retorted, "Don't act like you're innocent in all of this. You've been waiting for this opportunity." No, she said, carefully getting to her feet. I waited out of respect for you. When I could have gone all nuclear, I remained silent. But now you expect me to sit and smile after you've been degrading my name and clowning. Me and green screen confessionals? I no longer owe you all silent. Clearly torn, Resita stepped forward. You're correct, Sierra, on the respect issue. But this wasn't the right way to do it, darn you, girl. How else could I have done it? Sierra inquired. If I told you that Mendeecees was lying, did you think anyone would believe me? No. You would have said that I'm desperate for camera time or that I'm sloppy again. Yandi turned to face Resita. You laughed too, she remarked softly. You laughed each time they made a joke about my being overly sentimental. You can see why I was emotional now. Despite clearing his throat, Kirk remained silent. He appeared uneasy, as though he was aware that any remark would be met with disapproval. Resita remarked, I had no idea it was like this. I assumed it was merely a little back and forth. I had no idea it was this deep. When your name is being dragged, it's always deep, Yandi retorted. But it's just tea when it's someone else. Mendeecees finally spoke again after rubbing his hands together. So, what is the strategy? Will we simply trash the entire marriage on camera, over a somewhat lighthearted clip? You ought to have considered that prior to the existence of the clip, Yandi remarked scathingly. This mess was your fault, and everyone is watching me sink in it right now. King Key turned to face the producers. You all had better not remove anything from this. People must identify each other. Spice went on. She's not lying. This is a lot of unadulterated energy. And truthfully, we all seem to have a small truth to confront today. Sierra gave a nod. That's where the humor lies. You guys think I only came for one person? I came for the whole thing, because I'm sick of being portrayed as the bad guy when all I've done is make it through. Yandi gave her a look. You ought to have given me a private call. Do you mean the way you aired me in front of the cameras during the previous season? Sierra inquired. No, sis. The private phone call stage is over. Since you guys made it public, everything has been open to the public. Mendeecees sat down on the side of the couch after grabbing a water bottle. Whatever, you have more? Will you simply reveal everything? Sierra responded coolly. I don't need to leak anything, since the truth is already coming out on its own. The room remained silent once more. People's eyes darted and their mouths tightened as they gazed at one another. One argument was no longer the focus. It had become a time of reckoning, particularly for Yandi, who now had to choose between telling the truth about what has been going on behind closed doors and continuing to cover for her husband. At last, Resita posed the query that everyone had been considering, but was afraid to voice out. Did you know that he was still chatting with the girl, Yandi? Yandi's lips were squeezed close as he gazed at her. I was aware that something wasn't correct. I simply didn't want to accept it. Fans who were watching on social media began to respond. At that point, there was a humming of phones. Comments were pouring in. People were typing in all capitals on the internet. Screenshots were being posted on fan pages. With the message, Yandi deserves better, someone even launched a Twitter thread that was already receiving thousands of retweets. Queen Key took over with a new level of vigor. See, this is a mess, but it's essential. Let it be real if we're going to film real life. No more filters, no more phony allegiance. Let the man handle the consequences if he is lying. For the cameras, we have been sugarcoating too much. Mendeecees gave her a glance and remarked, You're acting as though you've never lied. She gave an eye roll. I have. And I was hauled along for it. But for my own safety, I didn't record my man sobbing. It's a completely new level. Yandi averted her gaze and wiped her eye. She was given a tissue by Bambi. The distinction between castmate and lady became hazy in that instant, even if no words were spoken. It was no longer about teams. The topic was wounded. Genuine, unadulterated pain. Want to know what the worst part is? Quietly, said Yandi. I kept working to save his reputation in the hopes that he would eventually preserve mine. However, while he has voice notes, directage, messages, and who knows what else flying around, I'm out here looking foolish. Sierra put her arms together. You don't appear foolish. You appear to be devoted. It's time to be honest now, though. So what? Shouldn't I just end our relationship? Now? Leave on national television? Yandy's voice cracked as she asked. Take the action that feels right, Sierra added. But this time, do it with both eyes open. Mendeecees surveyed the space and remarked, "So that's it? Will you simply allow her to use a phone to ruin our entire marriage?" No one responded. He slowly got to his feet. "This is completely phony," he murmured. "None of you are authentic." "No," Spice replied. "It's never been this real before." Mendeecees turned and left the area without turning around. The vibe in the room didn't change while the cameras followed him. It remained heavy and continued to circle Yandy like unclean smoke. She remained motionless and blinked quickly as she considered whether to follow him or to let everything fall apart at this very moment. Sierra remained silent throughout. Now that she had made her point, everyone was watching to see how she would respond. "Are you all right?" With a voice that was softer than anyone had heard all day, Bambi inquired. Yandy said, "I don't even know what okay feels like anymore. I've been using duct tape and prayers to keep everything together. And right now, I feel like everything is crumbling right now in front of those who were either cheering us on or even anticipating this." Rosita stepped closer and added, "Don't say that. We were cheering you all on." "Were you?" Without raising his gaze, Yandi inquired. "I don't feel supported by the way you all laughed and the fact that no one approached me to inquire how I was doing. It's like waiting for a train accident." Her statements were met with quiet, yet the guilt persisted. Spice moved around in her chair. "I'll say it. We made a mistake. We noticed several unsettling things, but we chose not to inquire. We continued to shoot and develop plots, and now we're here." Carly Red, who had been largely silent up until this point, spoke from the rear. "Do you know what's crazy? This isn't even the worst thing this bunch has experienced. However, what struck me differently was the reality that it's you all. Because what does that say about the rest of us if Mendeecees and Yandi are breaking apart?" Queen Key's head cocked. "It suggests that perhaps we have all been acting too much." At last, Yandi looked up, her face damp. "I simply feel stupid. I was out here blocking people and telling them they had no idea what they were talking about, just like all the times I stood up for him when they were in my direct messages warning me, and perhaps they did all along." Sierra inhaled deeply. "I never intended to cause you harm. However, I knew you were out here trying to keep things together on your own, so I couldn't continue to carry that lie." "So you revealed it to assist me? With real confusion rather than resentment?" Yandi inquired. Sierra replied, "The truth was burning a hole in my chest, so I exposed it. And sure, perhaps I ought to have done it behind closed doors, but the way this cast operates, private can sometimes mean disregarded, and I didn't want to be disregarded once more." Kirk finally said something. "We've been messy, yo, like we all do. And something has to change if we're going to continue filming in this manner. We cannot treat people's real lives as mere playthings." Bambi concurred. "And in order to avoid going viral, we must quit dragging each other's suffering. This goes beyond television. It concerns people's futures, children, and marriages." "So what occurs now?" Rosita inquired. "For example, is Yandi finished with him?" For an extended period, Yandi closed her eyes. "I don't know the solution, and I don't have to make that decision today. I need some room. I have to take a breath. Because I'm discovering, for the first time in years, that I don't know the man I've been standing up for." Mendeecees was on the phone outside the studio. He was unaware that a producer was still filming in the background. His voice was quick, low, and irritated. "No, she is aware now. Sierra let all out, and yes, I did warn you that this may occur. However, I didn't believe she would go there. I need you to keep quiet. Don't post anything. Never reply to blogs." His response was obvious, but the voice on the other end was too low to hear. "Remain silent," I said. "I can only resolve this in that manner." Queen Key's phone buzzed back inside. She gasped when she looked at it. "You all, a screen capture was just leaked. It sounds like damage control as Mendeecees is outside on the phone with someone. Bambi came running over. Hold on, let me check. She started playing the video. The tone was clear, even though you couldn't see who he was speaking to. Rosita responded, "That's him." Additionally, he isn't even attempting to make amends. He's attempting to hide his own cock. Carly Red said, "And he told that girl not to post anything." So, to whom was he speaking? Sierra whispered. Probably the same girl that Yandi has been asking about for months. Just then, Yandi got to his feet, enough, I need to breathe. She left the set and entered the corridor after passing the makeup station and the producers. She waved off a camera that attempted to follow her. At last, they complied with her request and stopped the feed. The cast sat silently in shock. "I believe she's finished," Spice muttered. "And perhaps she ought to be," Queen Key remarked, "because it was never real in the first place if you have to go through all of this just to get honesty." Mama D arrived late, unsure of what had transpired. She could feel the tension as soon as she looked around. "Who passed away?" she inquired. "Nobody," said Bambi. However, something could have been killed. Mama D's eyebrow went up. "Who are we battling?" "Mendeecees," Sierra stated without emotion. However, the true conflict lies between the truth and Yandi. Mommy D sat down. "Lord, you all surpass yourself every season." Backstage, Yandi was speaking with her sister on the phone. She declared, "I can't go back in there. My life seems to have been erased on camera for the past 5 years." "Then don't return inside," her sister said. "You owe no one a performance. Just look for yourself." Fans were going crazy during the live stream. Hashtags were popular. Celebrities were tweeting, "Josh, justice for Yandi." They were digging out old clips. Every instance that had previously raised suspicions now appeared to be a warning sign that had been disregarded. A few cast members began posting messages on the group text thread. Rosita, "I apologize, Yandi, I truly am." Kirk, "This was incorrect." "Not a bit." Queen Key, "If you need us, we've got your back." However, Yandi didn't answer. Rather, she closed her eyes and switched off her phone. She wasn't considering Mendeecees. She wasn't considering the fans or the cameras. She was reflecting about her first encounter with him and the moment she thought he was unique. And at this point, she was unable to choose between the fact that she still wasn't prepared to leave and the fact that he had betrayed her. The atmosphere on set had drastically changed. Producers were speaking with legal, and the crew was muttering behind the monitors. No one dared to follow Yandi as she exited the main stage. Not after what happened just now. However, the remainder of the actors sat in stunned fog in the lounge area, mentally reliving the entire event. However, Sierra didn't appear shaken. She appeared relieved. When she finally broke the stillness, she stated, "I ain't trying to be the villain. I wasn't supposed to be untidy here, but sometimes you have to be the one to tear off the bandage when you see a man lying and making up stories to hide his tracks and everyone else acting as though they are unaware of it." Spice bent forward. "So what? Are you finished? Or you have further bombs to drop?" Sierra hesitated. "I said what had to be said. Anything else is the responsibility of the Mendeecees." From around the corner, Carly Red laughed. "This can't be cleaned up, girl." On camera, he buried himself. Bambi looked over at Sierra. "You realize that things are going to get ugly? Supporters taking sides. People are being pulled by blogs. The new enemy number 1 could be you." Sierra shrugged. "They already dislike me, and now they're afraid of the truth I hold." Then, unexpectedly, the door opened. Yandi entered again. Her energy was calmer and her eyes were puffier, but the fire that burned behind her gaze remained unquenchable. As she walked to the center and stood across from Sierra, the room fell silent once more. "So, what you stated out there was true? In a low voice, Yandi inquired. Sierra gave a nod. "Every word." Yandi inhaled deeply. "I admire you for expressing it directly to me, then." The cast as a whole let out a collective sigh. I was furious, said Yandi. I still am. Not only at you, though. I'm upset with myself for not seeing the warning flags, for allowing love to obscure the obvious, for attempting to shield a guy who failed to shield me. Resita approached and stood beside Yandi. Everyone saw pieces. However, none of us spoke. It's not your fault, remarked Yandi. It belongs to him. Kirk took over. Do you want us to go up against him? Like, bring him back here and have a conversation? Yandi gave a head shake. No, lies cannot be fixed by talking. I don't require another statement of apology. I need the truth. I don't want anything from him until he's prepared to sit in front of everyone and say the truth without any filters. A phone-wielding production assistant entered. Yandi, a statement is being requested by TMJZ. They said that a video of Mendeecees leaving and fighting with someone off camera had just surfaced. Looks like it's getting worse. After discreetly watching the clip, Yandi took the phone and returned it. I'm not responding to it. Allow him to spiral. I've had enough of spinning with him. However, what about the program? Queen Key inquired. They will want you to record a one-on-one. You are aware of how they act. After that, they'll just film him, Yandi stated. I no longer perform agony for ratings. Mother D gave a slow clap from the corner. Well, darned if I do. I enjoy seeing backbones like this. Sierra turned back to Yandi. I apologize that things had to go this way. Me too, said Yandi. But even if it broke me, I had to see it. The workers started packing up the lights. Whispering, producers crowded in corners. They were aware that what they had just caught was priceless. A genuine, unfiltered moment that would go viral online. This season, drama didn't even need to be scripted. It was self-written. Mendeecees watched the same film of himself loosing, his rage on set while sitting in his car outside the studio. His phone was constantly buzzing with notifications, text messages, and missed calls. He brushed them all aside. One text caught our attention. You lied to my face, said Yandi. Once. More. Stay away from home. He slumped back in exasperation and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. He didn't feel angry with Sierra. Not really. He was upset that he had misjudged her. He assumed she would fold. He assumed she wouldn't say anything. However, she didn't. And now, on national television, everything he had fought to keep hidden was being revealed. One by one, the cast returned inside and started to go. Bambi gave Yandi a firm hug. You underestimate your strength. Spice gave a nod. Sis, we got you, whatever you require. Resita and Kirk stood close to the dressing room as the last of the lights were shut off. Do you believe that this is their end? She inquired. Kirk remarked, I think it's the beginning of something new. I don't know what it is, but it's not what they had previously. Within minutes, the comments area was overflowing. Wait, is that accurate? Did he just validate the speculation about the baby? Yandi is so deserving of better. Sierra wasn't telling lies. On camera, he confessed. Bloggers were analyzing. Every frame in a matter of hours. Fans were constantly tagging Yandi. Former co-stars began posting ambiguous messages. Even K. Michelle added her voice with a dubious tweet. And yet, Yandi said nothing. She was seen without her wedding band in. The days that followed. She called off all of her public engagements. She lost her Instagram. However, everything changed after a single post, an image of her standing in front of a mirror in black and white. Not a caption, no filter. She alone, facing herself. There were a ton of comments. No one needs an explanation from you. We recognize you, with 10 toes down. Courtesy. This season really got serious. Sierra took a seat for an unofficial podcast appearance in the interim, and she gave a straightforward response when asked if she had any regrets. I regret spending so much time keeping his secret. The presenter leaned closer. For the sake of clarity, did Mendeecees actually father another child? Sierra hesitated, then grinned. I'm neither denying nor confirming. I'm only suggesting that receipts are honest. Fans went crazy. People were looking at old video, attempting to identify the unknown woman, examining timelines. One thing was certain despite the outlandish theories. The court of popular opinion had already reached a decision. He remained silent on Mendeecees. Nothing. No apology video, no press. Days later, only one Instagram story was shared, a screen that is black. Everyone got skeletons, they said. Mine just appeared on television. However, the harm had already been done. And Yandi? It was observed that she entered a new management office. There were reports that she was producing a reality show of her own, alone. No husband, not a drama. Simply her reality. And that was more than sufficient for once. One of the most astounding scenes this season has ever produced may have been what just transpired on that set. Because the truth, raw, brutal, and unfiltered, hit like a slap across reality TV's polished face, not because someone hurled a drink or left the scene in the middle. Despite being betrayed, Yandi Smith, the woman who has supported Mendeecees through jail, controversy, and all in between, didn't bat an eye. Sierra, who is sometimes undervalued and written off as messy, demonstrated that she wasn't scared to absorb the heat if it meant letting the fire burn. One thing is quite clear. This isn't just reality TV anymore. Even though fans are still debating online who is telling the truth, who is lying, and who is just acting. This is genuine feeling, genuine repercussions, and perhaps the actual demise of one of the most famous romantic and hip-hop partnerships. Are Mendeecees actually concealing a child? Did Sierra just use one sentence to ruin everything? And is it possible that Yandi will actually leave this time? Everyone is asking these questions, and we're interested in hearing your thoughts. Thus, please, share your ideas in the comments section immediately. Do you support Yandi, Sierra team, or are you giving everyone the side eye? If this is how the season is going, you already know it will only get wilder from here. So if you're here for the truth, be sure to hit the like button and remember to subscribe. Put those alerts on so you don't miss any updates, and fasten your seatbelt because, darling, this isn't the end. This is only the start. See you in the upcoming one.